The courtroom is silent, but the air is thick with tension. Sunlight streams through the tall, arched windows, cutting across the polished wooden floors and illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Yet the beauty of the space does nothing to ease the heaviness hanging over everyone present. It's as if time itself has stalled, holding its breath in anticipation of the storm ready to break. At the defense table, Kody Brown sits upright, hands clasped tightly, knuckles white, eyes darting nervously between each of his wives. Every movement is calculated, every blink deliberate, but the anxiety in his posture betrays him. Robyn, the closest to him, leans forward a bit, her face set and yet fragile. Her fingers fidget under the table, twisting a silver ring nervously. She looks to Kody, hope and doubt battling it out in her gaze. Christine, on the other hand, sits farther back, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her lips pressed into a thin, tight line. Every now and then, she looks at Kody with a cutting intensity that slices through the thick tension like a knife. Janelle shifts uneasily, her foot tapping out a rhythmic silence on the floor, eyes flicking toward the door, as if she might make a run from this chaos any minute. Meri sits quietly, her eyes red-rimmed, mascara slightly smudged, from sleepless nights of thinking about the betrayals of small and large, known and unknown. The gavel strikes sharply from the judge's hand, insisting on attention. In an instant, the room snaps into focus, the weight of authority settling over the space like a heavy curtain. Court is now in session, she says, her voice firm but measured, as if she already can feel the explosive emotions ready to erupt. The plaintiff, a one-time business partner of Kody, rises to her feet. Her posture is confident, her voice steady. Each word she utters falls into place with precision, calculated for impact. She begins an itemization of breached contracts, mismanaged funds, and promises unfulfilled. Her tone does not permit any hint of doubt. Kody's lawyer shifts in his seat, trying to interject, trying to soften the blows, trying to provide context that would somehow diminish the damage, but each attempt feels small, inconsequential against this storm of accusations raining down. The wives react subtly, but unmistakably. The tension rises with each accusation. Robyn's hands curl more tightly in her lap. Christine's jaw muscles flex. Janelle's foot tapping becomes more insistent. Meri's fingers grip the pew in front of her, white-knuckled. As the testimony winds on, attention begins to shift toward Kody himself. Slightly leaning forward, he rests his elbows on the slick wood, trying to keep composed, trying to remind himself that he has been scrutinized before. But this feels different. This feels intimate. Every accusation feels personal. Every sentence cuts deeper than any courtroom protocol could predict. Christine finally rises, commanding attention. The courtroom seems to shrink as her voice, calm but sharp, cuts through the heavy air. "You always think you can control everything, Kody," she says, her words deliberate and slow. Control ends when lies come to light. It is a gauntlet thrown across the room, leaving nobody in the space feeling anything but uneasy. Robyn squirmed in her seat, her fingers clutching the tablecloth, a shiver running down her spine. The tension was tangible, almost choking. The judge calls for a short recess as a clerk hands a thick folder over the bench. Every pair of eyes in the courtroom follows it, holding its collective breath. The folder contains documents that have remained hidden, unseen by anyone outside the inner circle. Secrets that have been so skillfully buried. As the judge opens it and begins to scan the contents, the room falls into heavy silence. Kody's attorney leans in, speaking quickly. but the words are lost in the silent anticipation. The plaintiff's lawyer presses his lips together subtly, recognizing the shift in power, knowing that folder holds the leverage that could unravel everything. Each wife reacts a little differently as their eyes skim the edges of the confidential papers from their seats. Robyn bites her lip to hold back tears. Christine's eyes narrow, the hint of a smile playing briefly on her lips, a predator sensing opportunity. Janelle's restlessness increases. She shifts and fidgets, and Meri closes her eyes briefly, bracing herself for what's to come. Next, the clerk of the court calls the first critical witness. A one-time family friend, someone intimately familiar with the Browns, from the inside out. She comes forward, composed yet determined, and begins to recall conversations, meetings, and private dealings with Kody. She speaks with precision, each word a needle weaving in and out of the fabric of this family's precious balance. The courtroom reacts immediately. More gasps, murmurs, and wide-eyed, disbelieving glances around. Robyn's eyes water, but she swallows hard, fighting the instinct to flee from the growing storm. Christine leans forward, face taut, jaw clenched, listening intently for any misstep that might confirm her suspicions. Janelle's foot taps rapidly as her eyes dart to Kody and then to the witness. Meri quietly takes in every detail, silent tears tracing her cheeks. Kody is called to testify. He rises, his movements stiff, voice slightly unsteady at first. He tries to justify his actions, explain, plead his case, not just to the court, but to his wives, the people who know him best. Yet every argument seems hollow in view of the concrete evidence laid before him, and the tension in the room builds. Every glance from the wives seems a verdict in itself. The next witness called is someone who has been observing family dynamics closely, somebody whose insight can cut deeper than any lawyer's question. He reveals long-held secrets about financial dealings and private conversations, exposing vulnerabilities none of the wives knew existed. Kody's face pales. Robyn's trembling hands now press against her mouth. Christine's eyes flare with both anger and vindication. Even Janelle, usually measured, sways slightly in her seat, and Meri squeezes her hands tightly, bracing for impact. As the testimony unfolds, the wives start to turn on each other in raw, unfiltered emotion. Robyn's voice quivers as she whispers softly to herself, "How could he do this to us?" Christine makes no effort at concealing her contempt, her glances slicing like a knife. The subtle shifts in body language, slight head tilts, narrowing of eyes, all painting a portrait of a family standing on the edge of implosion. Then comes the moment that sends a collective shiver through the room. A clerk hands the judge a small envelope, sealed with a seal none of the parties had seen before. The judge opens it slowly, looking first at Kody, then at his wives, then finally back at the attorneys. She clears her throat, her eyes sharp. "Before we proceed," she says, pausing for effect, "there's one document that none of you have seen, and it might change everything." The room goes silent. Robyn's breath catches. Christine's eyes go wide, her fists growing tight. Janelle leans forward, raising an eyebrow in anticipation of the revelation. Meri bites her lower lip in preparation for news that may shatter the fragile equilibrium. Kody's swallow is audible, as his mind flashes back to every decision, every secret, every mistake he has ever made. The tension is almost unbearable, the air thick with expectation. It lies on the bench of the judge, silently inviting chaos. Every whisper dies. Every gaze is fixed. The courtroom seems to pulse with anticipation. And for a moment, it feels as if nothing else exists outside these walls. Secrets, betrayals, and lies hang in the air, waiting to fall, waiting to expose the cracks that have so long been hidden beneath the carefully curated public image. The judge slowly raises the document, the seal broken, to reveal pages that seem to vibrate with the weight of secrets. Kody's fingers tighten around the edge of the table. The color has bleached from his cheeks. Robyn's hand has flown to her mouth, her eyes wide in shock, while Christine leans forward, the tiniest flicker of triumph in her narrowed gaze. Janelle rocks slightly, as if trying to brace herself, and Meri's chest rises and falls with deep, trembling breaths. The air is suddenly thick in the courtroom, almost impossible to breathe, as though the walls themselves are holding in the tension. The plaintiff's attorney senses the shift and rises, his finger pointed at Kody. "Mr. Brown, this document contains correspondence and transactions that directly contradict your previous statements under oath. Care to explain this to the court?" His voice is even but slicing, measured and deliberate. Each word lands like a hammer echoing off the courtroom walls. Kody swallows, trying to steady his voice. "Your Honor, I can explain," he begins, but the words falter under the weight of the evidence. The judge raises a brow, silently signaling him to continue. Each wife watches him differently. Robyn with heartbreak and disbelief. Christine with sharp scrutiny. Janelle with anxious anticipation. And Meri with quiet, wounded resignation. The first witness is called forward, a longtime family friend who has spent years observing the Browns' dynamics up close. She takes a deep breath and begins to outline conversations, private meetings, and subtle manipulations that have gone unnoticed by outsiders. The courtroom leans in collectively. You can feel the weight of each revelation pressing down upon every person present. Christine's eyes flare, Robyn's lips tremble, and Kody fidgets under the intense scrutiny. As the witness talks on, it's as if the walls in the courtroom start closing in. Janelle bites her lip, her eyes darting toward Kody for some sign of defense, some explanation that could undo the mounting tension. Meri's hands clutch the edge of her seat, knuckles white, as the words pierce deeper than any argument or lawyer's speech could. The details are intimate, personal, and painfully revealing. Suddenly, Robyn rises to her feet, her voice shaking, yet loud enough. "I trusted you, Kody. I believed in us. Was it all a lie?" The question cuts through the courtroom, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. The words aren't a plea, but an indictment. Every person present in the room can feel the weight of her utterance. The opposing attorney leans in, pressing Kody on every detail, every inconsistency, every moment the witness described. It's as if the evidence compounds, layering one shocking revelation upon another. Christine's eyes glint with restrained fury. She whispers something to herself under her breath, sharp and cutting. Janelle rocks in her seat, restless, and Meri closes her eyes briefly, as if to steel herself against impact. Things take a turn for the worse when the witness reveals a private conversation that none of the wives or anyone in the courtroom are supposed to know. Kody's jaw tightens. His hands shake slightly on the table. The wives react instinctively. Robyn presses her hand to her heart. Christine's eyes flash fire. Janelle leans forward with a questioning glare, and Meri's lips part slightly in disbelief. Even the judge pauses, absorbing the weight of what's being revealed. Kody tries to answer. His voice strains, caught between explanation and justification. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But the opposing attorney cuts sharply into the courtroom with their words. Intentions don't erase actions, Mr. Brown. You are accountable for every decision, every omission, every hidden truth. Robyn's tears silently fall, streaking down her cheeks as she watches Kody struggle to regain control. Christine doesn't move. She doesn't blink. She stares, an amalgam of shock and anger. Janelle fidgets, unable to square what she is hearing with the man she has known. Meri presses her palms to her face, fighting back the sob. The atmosphere in the room thickens as another key witness is called. A confidant, a man who was closer to the family's inner workings. Every eye in the courtroom rests on this person. Anticipation rises in a tide. They start slow, being very careful with details that insinuate deeper betrayal. An emotional fracture in the family that not even the wives had fully grasped. The courtroom leans in as one. Whispers sweep quietly but steadily through the audience as the weight of the testimony settles in. Kody's face has gone pale, Robyn furiously wiping away her tears, Christine's hands balling into fists, and Meri's chest rising and falling in controlled panic. Janelle's eyes flick between the witness and Kody, searching for something that could explain, excuse, or soften the blow. But there is none. The witness takes a deep breath, preparing to deliver the final bombshell of the day. The tension is nearly unbearable, heavy in the air like a physical presence. Every heartbeat seems magnified. Robyn swallows hard, Christine's breath catches, Janelle leans forward, and Meri's hands grip a little tighter. Kody's mouth opens, but no words come out. His voice is mute against the weight of what is to come. The witness talks, an undercover meeting, a secret set of documents, a conversation that Kody had hoped would never see the light of day. Immediately, the courtroom erupts with gasps, whispers, and audible, sharp intakes of breath. Robyn puts her hands over her mouth, as if to hold it in. Christine's glare is lethal, her lips pressed tightly as she absorbs every word. Janelle leans back and shakes her head. There is just too much to process all at once. Meri shuts her eyes, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. Kody finally finds his voice, quiet, trembling, almost pleading. I can explain, please. But his words are swallowed up by the intensity of the courtroom. The opposing attorney leans forward, calm yet cutting. Explanations do not erase the truth, Mr. Brown. Every lie, every omission, every secret matters here. The judge calls for a brief break, his voice low and somber, with the weight of emotions bearing down upon all. All rise. They move quietly, and the room clears for a short recess. However, the tension does not dissipate. Whispers swirl outside the courtroom among the onlookers. Journalists murmur to each other. The wives converse in hushed tones, while Kody sits by himself, staring at the floor and lost in thought, trying to pick up the pieces of a life and family, sliding slowly through his fingers. The courtroom is reconvened after an intense recess, and it's so electric in there, almost chokingly so. Every face has a tale to tell. Kody's pale, sweat beading at his temple. Robyn's eyes wide, glistening with tears. Christine sits stiff, jaw clenched, a storm brewing behind her cold, hard stare. Janelle shifts uncomfortably in her seat, anxiety written across her postures. Meri, quiet but devastated, bites her lip to hold back a flood of emotions The air itself feels charged, like the walls are holding their breath. The next witness, someone who has been intimately involved with the private dealings of the family, takes the stand. The court falls silent, the anticipation almost unbearable. The witness steps forward, hands trembling, and begins to tell a tale of a series of private conversations and secret agreements never heard by the public, or even, for that matter, some of the wives themselves. Christine leans forward, eyes narrowed, hanging on to every word. Robyn presses a hand to her chest, the knuckles white, her heartbeat audible even in the hushed room. Janelle rocks forward, biting the inside of her cheek, and Meri's tears flow freely now, her face pale, strained. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, hands tight on the table. The witness speaks slowly, deliberately, weaving a tale of hidden financial dealings, private messages, and long-kept family secrets. Each word seems to weigh heavier than the last, and the wives' reactions to that reality are immediate and visceral. Robyn's shoulders slump, as if the weight of the betrayal has physically hit her. Christine's hands tighten into fists, the veins prominent on her neck as rage simmers beneath the surface. Janelle presses her lips together, glancing at Kody with a mix of disbelief and hurt. Meri's eyes well with tears, silently bracing herself for the truth she has feared. Suddenly, Robyn's voice cuts through the silence. Trembling, she speaks in a near whisper, but every word resounds through the courtroom. I trusted you, Kody. I believed in us. Was it all a lie? The question isn't just for him. It hangs over the whole room like a guillotine, waiting to drop. Each and every person present felt the weight of those words, the accusation still echoing long after it was spoken. The opposing attorney seizes the moment, pressing Kody on inconsistencies, missed communications, and secret meetings. Kody opens his mouth, trying to explain, to justify. But the words falter. His voice shakes, a mixture of fear, desperation, and the dawning realization that the walls of secrecy are collapsing around him. Christine's eyes bore into him like daggers, each blink a silent accusation. Robyn swallows hard, fighting back tears, wringing her hands in her lap. Janelle leans forward, restless, glancing between Kody and the witness, seeking some hint of truth that might ease the mounting tension. Meri sits frozen, jaw tight, every fiber of her body taut with anticipation. The witness hesitates, then delivers a final devastating statement. They recount a conversation between Kody and a business associate that was kept secret from everyone, including his wives. The details are intimate, personal, and undeniable. The courtroom collectively gasps. Robyn covers her mouth with her hand, as silent tears break freely. Christine's eyes flare with fury, lips pressed tightly as she absorbs every damning word. Janelle rocks back into her chair, stunned, and Meri buries her face in her hands, trying to fight the sting of betrayal overwhelming her. Kody falters as he tries to speak. His voice shakes. I never wanted anyone to get hurt, he says in a pleading whisper. But nobody in the courtroom moves an inch. The opposing attorney comes forward, his tone calm but cutting, each word said just right. Intentions do not erase actions, Mr. Brown. Every secret counts, and every omission invites consequences. The wives start to react, and emotions finally reach their boiling point. Robyn's voice breaks as she whispers to herself, I cannot believe I didn't see this coming. Christine leans forward, lips tight, her glare full of accusatory intensity. Janelle fidgets in her seat, searching for something to anchor herself to from the chaos. Meri silently sobs, quiet and heartbreaking, the weight of betrayal weighing her down. Kody's shoulders slump in defeat, realizing the enormity of the storm he now faces. The judge waves her hand, watching carefully, sensing emotional turmoil fill the room. She clears her throat and addresses the witness. "Please continue. The court will hear everything you have to say." The witness nods and takes a deep breath before letting the bomb drop. Evidence of a clandestine meeting that contradicts every statement Kody has made under oath. A conversation that might irreparably damage his credibility and his family's fragile trust. The courtroom erupts in quiet murmurs. Robyn clutches at her chest in an effort to wrap her mind around the apparent act of betrayal. Christine's glare intensifies, hands flexing as rage and shock meld into her expression. Janelle leans forward, eyes wide, struggling to correlate the man she thought she knew with the man standing before her. Meri closes her eyes, silent tears streaming as she braces for a verdict on the truth that appears inevitable. Kody's face is pale, his eyes wide with fear, as he realizes the weight of the accusations is more than words. This is the destruction of trust, exposure of secrets, and unraveling of a carefully curated family facade. The wives rise silently as the judge signals a brief pause. Kody stays seated, his head down, lost in thought. A man facing the consequences of choices that have finally caught up with him. Outside the courtroom, whispers and speculation began to rise like a tide. The storm spilling beyond the walls into the waiting world. A sense of tension marked every last moment of the session, thick, almost physical. Every glance carried weight, every movement. Robyn furiously wiped her tears. Christine hunched forward, breathing shallowly. Janelle rocked slightly in place, while Meri clutched the edge of her chair as if holding on to sanity itself. Kody sat frozen, his mind racing, knowing full well that the next revelation could decide everything. Not just this courtroom battle, but the survival of the family itself. The courtroom settles into an almost unbearable silence as the next witness rises. Every eye is locked on them. Every breath seems measured, deliberate, as though the room itself were holding its collective breath. Kody sits rigid, hands clasped around the edge of the table, knuckles white. Robyn's face has gone pale, tears welling in her eyes. Christine leans forward, jaw tight, her eyes ablaze with anger and incredulity. Janelle shifts in her seat, anxious and restless, while Meri's hands shake as she clasps them tightly in her lap. The witness takes a slow, steadying breath, looks briefly at the judge, then begins. At first, the voice is quiet, almost hesitant, but it builds with each word, each revelation slicing through the courtroom like a knife. They recall secret meetings Kody had kept hidden, financial transactions not shared with his wives, and conversations designed to manipulate or deceive. The wives react in an instant. Robyn gasps, Christine's eyes narrow, Janelle presses her lips together, and Meri's lips quiver as if holding back a scream. As the witness continues, they begin to produce documents and messages, evidence that does not leave room for denial. Each piece of proof falls like a hammer, denting Kody's defenses and shaking the wives' core of trust. Robyn's hands quiver as she tries to hold her composure. Christine leans forward, eyes sharp and unyielding, a storm in her eyes barely contained. Janelle bites the inside of her cheek as she fights to process what she hears. Meri squeezes her hands until her knuckles are white, as she silently fights back tears. The opposing attorney, seizing the moment, steps forward with a voice calm and razor-sharp. "Mr. Brown, these clearly contradict your statements. exhibiting deliberate concealment. How do you explain that? Kody swallows hard. His jaw tightens as he tries to form an explanation. I didn't think anyone would find out, he whispers, his voice barely audible. Yet every person in the room heard the confession. Christine's head whips toward him, her eyes ablaze. You didn't think? You didn't care! Her voice cuts through the heavy air, raw with emotion. Robyn presses her hands to her face, stifling a sob. Janelle's eyes dart between them, uncertain where her loyalty lies. And Meri's chest rises and falls rapidly as she struggles to contain her grief. Having let the weight of their words sink in, the witness drops the final bomb. Kody is alleged to have orchestrated a private deal that intentionally misled one of his wives to cause division and distrust. Whispers erupt within the courtroom. Robyn lowers her hand from her face, eyes wide, almost unable to fathom the betrayal. Christine's fists clench even tighter, with veins bulging across her neck. Janelle rocks a little in her seat, as disbelief works its way across her face. Meri just stares, silent tears streaming down her face. Kody tries to defend himself, voice trembling. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I was protecting everyone. But the courtroom is unmoved. The seriousness of the evidence and this witness's testimony hangs in the air like a thick cloud that cannot be breathed through. Every word Kody says now seems insufficient, not enough to mend the damage. The judge leans forward, her eyes sweeping the room and stopping on each wife. The court takes these allegations seriously, she firmly states. We will hear every detail, and every statement will be scrutinized. Her words only heighten the tension. The finality in her tone presses down on everyone present. Robyn finally finds her voice, shaking but firm. I trusted you, Kody. Every choice, every word, every promise. And now I don't know who you are. Her words reverberate through the courtroom, resonating not only with Kody, but also with everyone present. Christine leans in, lips pressed tightly, eyes glinting with fury. Janelle rocks forward, silent and conflicted, and Meri sobs quietly, overcome by emotion. Kody's shoulders slump. He is a man cornered, stripped of defenses, exposed before his wives and the law. The next witness, someone who has watched the family up close for years, takes the stand. They reveal conversations and events that expose fractures in the family long before the courtroom drama began. Hidden resentments and unspoken alliances being formed behind closed doors. The revelations trigger a new wave of emotion. Christine's anger gets hotter. Robyn's heartbreak deepens. Janelle's confusion escalates, and Meri's sorrow becomes almost unbearable. The tension peaks when the witness presents a private recording, a conversation that Kody would wish had been kept hidden forever. The room collectively leans forward. Robyn's hands are thrown over her mouth. Christine's eyes widen in incredulity. Janelle anxiously shifts in her seat, and Meri's tears fall openly. The recording exposes lies, manipulations, and calculated secret-keeping that threaten to undo years of trust and unity within the family. Kody opens his mouth to explain, but the words falter, the weight of his actions weighing him down. The wives react on impulse. Robyn turns away, fighting for breath. Christine leans forward, sharp and accusatory. Janelle rocks slightly, caught between incomprehension and pain. Meri bows her head, overcome with emotion. The courtroom feels like it could break at any moment under the pressure. The judge calls for a brief recess, but the tension lingers over everyone in the room like a storm cloud. Whispers and murmurs circulate among the spectators, journalists, and family friends outside the courtroom. Alone, Kody is seated, his head in his hands, with thoughts of how bad the damage is. The wives huddle in small clusters. Glances heavy with emotion are exchanged, as the questions of loyalty, trust, and the future of their family are being asked. The courtroom feels impossibly tense when everyone returns from recess. The air is thick with anticipation, every breath heavy, every movement amplified by the weight of what's about to unfold. Kody sits rigid at the defense table, hands clenched tightly, jaw tense, eyes darting between his wives. Robyn's face is pale, tears glistening in her eyes, reflecting the harsh light streaming through the courtroom windows. Christine leans forward, jaw set, eyes sharp with anger, her presence radiating unspoken power and accusation. Janelle rocks subtly in her seat, restless, gripping the edge of her chair as if holding herself together, while Meri sits quiet, trembling, fighting back the rising tide of grief. He calls the next witness, a confidant who had worked behind the scenes with the family. All eyes in the room turn to them as they come forward, nervous yet determined. The witness takes a deep breath and starts to tell the tale of private conversations and hidden decisions that nobody outside the inner circle knew existed. Words cut like knives, words of betrayals, secrets, and manipulations that have been festering beneath the surface for years. Robyn places a hand over her chest and softly gasps, her heart breaking with each revelation. Christine inclines forward, her fists knitted into her knees, her eyes ablaze as every word confirms her suspicions and feeds her anger. Janelle rocks slightly, anxious and conflicted, unsure where to place her emotions. Meri shakes all over, with tears running unhampered as she silently absorbs the painful truths. The witness stops momentarily to let that weight of their words sink in, then proceeds to talk about a clandestine plan Kody had contrived in dealing with conflict and finances without the knowledge of his wives. Every sentence brought another weight of betrayal onto relationships already strained. Instantaneous and visceral reactions from the wives. A trembling Robyn, Christine's eyes narrowing ominously, Janelle biting her lip, torn between not believing and sorrow, and Meri's heaving chest in an attempt to constrain the torrent of emotions flooding her, was immediate. Kody tries to speak. His voice is low, shaking, full of desperation. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I thought I was doing what was best. His words hang in the courtroom, fragile and insufficient. The opposing attorney steps forward, calm but deadly precise. Intentions cannot erase the consequences, Mr. Brown. Every omission, every secret, every betrayal matters in this court and before your family. P. The tension rises as the witness introduces a package of private texts, conversations Kody hoped would never be seen, publicly exposing moments of manipulation and duplicity. The courtroom reacts immediately. There are gasps, murmurs, and widened eyes filling the space. Robyn clutches her hands over her mouth. Christine is leaning forward, clenching her teeth, her eyes burning with fury. Janelle rocks back slightly, grappling with the undeniable truth, and Meri's tears fall unchecked, her grief tangible. The judge calls for Kody to respond. His hands tremble as he rises, attempting to explain, to plead, to justify. But the words falter under the weight of evidence and emotion. Christine cuts in sharply, voice slicing. You lied to us, Kody. Every promise, every word, it was all a lie. Robyn sobs softly, hiding her face in her hands. Janelle looks at Kody in disbelief, while Meri just shakes her head silently, overwhelmed with a sense of betrayal she never saw coming. The final twist comes when the witness reveals a long-concealed meeting between Kody and a former business partner, which goes against every defense he has given so far. Immediately, the courtroom reacts. Robyn freezes, her fingers tightening around her seat. Christine's gaze pierces Kody like a blade. Janelle is pale, her lips parted in shock. Meri's body shakes, her grief and anger mingling into a silent storm. Kody swallows hard, the weight of it all finally hitting him straight on. He looks at each wife in turn, their faces a picture of hurt, incredulity, and betrayal. The room is heavy, almost to the point of being suffocating, with the weight of secrets disclosed and the trust broken. The judge leans forward, voice steady but commanding. This court has heard testimony that raises serious questions about actions, intentions, and truthfulness. Each statement, each piece of evidence will be carefully weighed. However, before we do so, one last testimony remains, a revelation that might determine how this family's future unfolds. The room falls silent, anticipation crackling in every corner. Robyn grits her seat tightly. Christine leans forward like a coiled spring. Janelle rocks subtly, and Meri closes her eyes, bracing herself. Kody sits frozen, mind racing, heart pounding, knowing the final revelation could destroy him or offer a slim hope of redemption. The witness steps forward, looks at each of the wives, and begins to tell of a moment that had remained hidden from all, a moment that could reveal not only betrayal and secrecy, but also deep emotional fractures that had long been repressed. Each word is placed with deliberation, every pause weighted, as suspense builds while the family listens in silent horror. Tears fall freely now from Robyn. Christine's fists clench so tightly that her knuckles are white. Janelle's eyes widen in shock, and Meri shakes her head, overcome by grief. Kody pales, his mind racing as he realizes the enormity of what has been revealed.